Within 24 hours, they started blaming Arabs. Within 24 hours, the discussion was like, this is a terrorist attack. They started discussing Middle Easterns. From someone who left war, from someone who experienced Desert Storm of the invasion of Iraq, my heart sank. I'm like, oh my God, they're going to come after us. Arabs live in that fear all the time.
Welcome to One in Tribe. I am your host, Julie Fidalgo. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today's guest is Mustafa Knight. Mustafa is a writer, director, actor, and YouTuber who fled war in Iraq, lived as a refugee in Greece, and went on to appear on HBO, CBS, and Comedy Central. With over 250,000 followers across social media, he blends dark humor and raw storytelling to explore identity, family, and the immigrant experience. Mustafa is now launching his new podcast where he shares hard-won lessons on turning setbacks into strength. Welcome, Mustafa, to One in Tribe.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That was a wonderful intro. Did you write
Yeah.
that?
We have a little secret. I'm loving the aesthetics, by the way. This looks great.
Yeah, I'm coming live from Guantanamo Bay. I'm held captive.
It's horrible.
Well, we should explain to your audience, this is not a magic show, right? We're not doing magic. I'm not going to be performing the tricks. Even though it's a true story, I used to be a magician when I was much younger. I've been the jack of all trades, master of none.
I feel like actors are a little bit like that.
We just need people to watch us. Like,
We'll do anything.
Watch me.
Yeah.
But yeah. So this is, we're not doing magic shows today, unfortunately. But yeah, I was explaining earlier to you that I'm starting a podcast, and instead of going on my laptop and all that stuff, I was like, hey, let's just see what this looks like and feels like. So even though it's dark and moody, I'm very light and funny.
I love it. And I really love the set. So it looks
Thank
great.
you.
And it's very like mysterious and, it makes you want to watch, and the lighting's really good. So
Thank you.
yeah.
I watched a lot of YouTube tutorials.
Didn't we all?
Yeah, right.
So, Mustafa, I always like to start by asking my guests to describe themselves in 3 words.
3 words. Ambitious, brave, and curious.
Curious.
ABC.
ABC. Did you do that on purpose? Did you plan that?
Yeah, sorry. I've been like all night. I've been like, what is? I knew I was gonna be quizzed. No, I actually no, I didn't.
That was good. Curious is a word that a lot of my guests use, and I love that word. You got to be curious.
I think that builds momentum in life, right? I think if you're curious, and I have 2 little kids that I parent solo 24/7.
Oh wow.
I encourage it because I think that's how you get growth, right? And you don't sit idle, it's just, question everything. And I challenge my kids to question me when I am literally like asking them to do things, like question why I'm asking you these things, And so I think as someone who grew up in the arts and theater and all that, discovery is big, and being curious leads to discovery,
Yeah, I think you hit it on the nose when you said that curiosity leads to growth. Because if you're growing, you want to know more, right? If you're curious, you want to know more, you're growing.
Yeah.
So, absolutely.
And it's honestly, I feel it's one of the best attributes that people could have. Like for me, when I meet someone who has that, has that kind of attribute, I feel that this is someone I could get along with. Because you're going to be able to get through a lot of things because you're going to be seeking answers, right? You're curious. You want to know what's going on, So I love that. Since I was a child, I've had that in me, and I didn't really embrace it until I was getting older. It was like, wow, I am like, if you look at my resume, what I've been through, I wrote it down recently because I'm starting this podcast. I was like, this is a kid that was just curious about everything. Like I
Mm,
went through. I've been on the stage at House of Blues. I performed live. I was in a rock band. I performed live in front of 10,000 people. I've been on MTV several times. Like I've did magic shows. Um, what else did yeah, there's this like actor, TV actor, film actor, director, writer, soon to be author. I'm working on a book, podcaster, YouTuber. Like YouTube, that whole experience in social media, I started in 2022 because I was curious.
mm,
I was
yeah.
like, what, why? Okay, why? It was actually someone at NBC that kind of inspired me to do it. It was like, why aren't you on social media? And I'm like, I just felt like I was too old and I had missed like the boat or something. And I was like, I don't know. I'm like, I can't make prank because all I saw was like prank shows and stuff like that. I was like, I can't do that. But then I got curious. I was like, well, let's try it. And it became a drug. It sounds
Yeah.
it's so addicting.
And you're
Um,
never too old for anything. That's what
yeah,
keeps
yeah, that
you
was the old
young.
mindset. Yeah, yeah. You're
Yeah.
not. I mean, I think when you're buried, you're just too old for it, right? Like, I think while you're here, and I've been lucky to have caught I call it the RM syndrome,
Okay.
which stands for Ralph Macchio syndrome. That or Benjamin Buttons. I feel like I'm reverse aging. You know what I mean? And it really has to deal a lot with mindset. It's just like, oh no, I could get back in shape. Oh no, I could take care of myself. Oh no, I could be fun. I could do like it's all mindset.
Absolutely.
Life is all about A or B, for me at least, that's my personal opinion. It's literally like you could choose to be happy or you could choose to be sad. It's your choice, you know?
Absolutely.
And it's good to practice both those choices because sadness is sometimes nice.
Yeah. Well, I think life is a roller coaster, right? It's opposites. So you've got happy, sad, you've got good, bad, you've got dark, light. So I think it's a mixture of both. It's you choose which one you want to take more up of your life, I think.
hmm Yeah, I mean, I got into Stoic philosophy a few years ago. Really been studying it, and one of the things that really there's two quotes that I love in life that I try to pass on to my children and try to make it my mantra. And one of them is by Marcus Aurelius. What stands in the way becomes the way. That one it took me a minute to soak up, but I went through a lot the last few years of my life, and it started during the pandemic. Lost people, uh, and there was always the why. Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me mindset? But then, fortunately for me, I changed that narrative to what is this teaching me? What is this about? What am I supposed to learn here? And once I just, and Stoicism really helped me with that. Seneca, Aurelius. I have this book called The Daily Stoic. I've given it to Charles before, one of your guests. I give it to people as a gift. It's 365 pages of um, daily Stoic like quotes with some reflection on it. It's written by Ryan Holiday. He's very popular. Um, and I read that every day. And there's one called The Daily Dad, and it's written by him as well. And it just starts off the mornings by choice. Every morning is a choice, right?
Mhm.
It's like I want to be happy. Like this today, I want to be happy, and it's work. We spoke off camera about you can't always be happy, and I think that's the secret. When you said that earlier to me, that you can't always be happy, I agree with that. Because there's times when I'm sad, I allow myself to be sad and go, it's okay. Feel
Yes.
sad, feel that, because I'm learning from it and it's helping me grow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Happiness is not constant. Of course, I've got rough days. I've
Yeah,
got good days, but I try to focus on the good. And every time I'm having a rough day, I think about all the things that I have, everything. We have so much to be grateful for, especially when you put it
absolutely.
all into perspective and you see what's
Absolutely.
happening around the world. Like, alhamdulillah, we've got a roof over our heads, we've got clean
Alhamdulillah.
water to drink, you know, loved ones. So I think just focusing
Oxygen.
on that. Huh? Oxygen.
Oxygen. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Breathing,
The basic that
alhamdulillah.
a lot of people don't have.
And
Yeah.
it's weird because like social media, I remember in the early stages, I felt like it was so good for humanity because we were going to connect, and I still do believe that. But it's really showing, from my perspective, it's really showing how it. I don't look at social media as, some people like show off their stuff. I look at it as, maybe because of the accounts I follow and stuff. I'm very grateful because there's other people in this world that just don't have this privilege that I do. And I came from a war-torn country. We escaped Iraq um, when I was 3 years old. We, as in my mom and my siblings. My father had escaped during the war first to find refuge, and then we lived in Athens, Greece. Lived in tents, and came here in 1983. Poor, 4 kids. Parents don't speak English, and I'm sitting on here with YouTube lights, looking like a magician, like from Baghdad, from war-torn Baghdad. The Iraqis, we say Baghdad. By the way, every time I visited Arab countries, they don't believe I'm Arab. They're like, and people don't believe I'm white.
It's very difficult. Yeah. And oh my God, there's so much to talk about because you just brought up so many things. And that's where I usually like to start. I mean, we started this a little bit different this episode, but talk a little bit about your childhood. Like you mentioned, both your
Oh, it's
parents are
perfect.
from Iraq. You were born there. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Are you gonna cue up the music? um, yeah, I mean, you know, um, uh, so my father passed away last year.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. I bring it up because I didn't know my father until right before I buried him. And he had been absent in my life and my siblings' life for quite some time. I would say maybe 25 years. I didn't know him or see him since I was a young man. And in 2023, I'm in the midst of a horrible divorce. My mother and my sister come to my house and say, "Hey, your dad's here in town." I'm like, "So?" And they're like, "He really wants to see you. He's dying." And I had that, kind of that grudge. And I always thought to myself, I'm not someone who held grudges. I'm a Libra. I'm an actor. I'm a theater actor. I'm like, yeah. I also improv actor. So I'm a yes and.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
but
And
this, I rejected my scene partner. I was like, no, I'm not gonna go see him. And I remember, we were sitting in my backyard, and I remember my mom said, I just have to tell you, he's your father, and he requested to see you before he passes. The human side of me said, that's a dying man's wish. You can't. You're better than this, Mustafa. Like, no matter what happened, and I'll let Hama, like, God rest his soul. He was a challenging father. He was raised, and I only knew this by his deathbed. I got to know him in his deathbed, and so I started talking to him about. I went. I told myself that there's no way I could behave in this manner. Like, this is, regardless the relationship I had with him. He's a human, and if this is his, and I got to know him over 10 months before he passed, and he never left the hospital. Actually, that's not true. He left shortly after I met him. Like a few days after I met him, they were releasing him because he came from out of the country. He came from out of town. Like, he didn't have any papers, and they thought he was. That's another story. But I brought him to my home, and he lasted almost 40 hours before we had to call 911 and rush him out of here. He had a failing heart. I feel like he died from a broken heart. He died from a broken heart from the stories I heard from him. And it really changed me as a man. And I was so grateful to had to reconnect. I was so grateful for my mother. I was so grateful for the opportunity to reconnect with him because I understood humanity a little bit better because I blamed him for a lot of things. And it wasn't not so long before he came back into my life where I wished that he was, because I blamed him for everything and I wished he, him not well. And God's like, well, I have another plan for you. I'm
Hmm.
sending him right to you. My brother lives in Mexico. My other brother lives here. My sister lives over there. My dad chose to come here. And I feel like that was God's work because he wanted to heal my heart. And so in 1980, right after my sister was born, the Iran war started. I was 3 years old. I actually remember it. I remember the bombings. I remember the sirens that went off before a bombing would happen. My older brother and I were at my grandmother's house. We're out on the roof. This is a moment I'll never forget in my life. They say you always remember the tragic,
Mm,
you think moments in your life. And unfortunately, I'm trying to reframe that for me. I'm trying to remember the good things of
mm,
my life. But that was a tough one. We were on the roof, me and my brother playing, and the sirens go off, and they're very loud and we're in Baghdad, we were in Karada, which was right. I think it's across from the palace of Saddam and stuff like that. We're very close to where the green zone is now. So it's a central area for, military bombings and stuff like that. I remember fighter jets flew over us, and the force of them, and then the impact of the bombs was something I could still feel this day. Um, and I froze. I literally froze when I felt the impact of a bomb, a big one, and I defecated. And I remember it falling down my shorts and hitting my leg, and I was just frozen. And my aunt Basima came up running, screaming, grabbing me and my brother by our hands and pulling us to go down. That's how, I pause there because it's nothing compared to the kids in Gaza right now. Um, I was fortunate enough, to survive that. I was fortunate enough to escape that world, and some are not, and being a father of a 7-year-old and 11-year-old, it cuts deeper now, you know, I, because my experience, I was spared, and so my father served in the military, during that time. He was part of the Saddam regime, not part of his, he was part of his army, and he ended up, he didn't want to be there. My uncle was executed on my mom's side. Saddam had a very strong hold on his people and his armies, and you can't just quit the army. You can't
mm.
just say, I'm not gonna, show up to work. Nah, I'm good. Like there's no dishonorable discharge. There's execution, If you don't serve, you're done. And so my father feared that, and he had a way out. He thought of a way out, and he shot himself multiple times in the leg to make it look like he was under attack. He got attacked, and he was rushed to the hospital. And from there, I believe it was his cousin, a family relative who was a doctor. Someone helped him escape um, through the hospital because you just can't, like I said, wait. And then he ended up escaping. And I believe my mom didn't know what happened to him. We didn't know. I was too young. But he made it to Jordan, and he sought asylum, political asylum. Went to the U.S. Embassy, and then that's when they started working on getting us out. And we we were smuggled out of Iraq. Me, my mom. I remember my mother telling me the story, which is a heartbreaking story. Um, she was a young woman in her mid-20s with 4 kids, um, fleeing a country, leaving her mother, everyone behind, going through the desert. to escape, you know. The sad thing about, even saying this out loud, it hasn't changed.
Hmm.
My mother's story hasn't changed. There's a lot of mothers and fathers and children right now, as we speak, are on this journey. And it does break my heart, you know. I always I always thought we had a unique story, and I don't. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have a unique story. I have a human story, and I remember being ashamed of it as a child. I mean, there were so many moments, there were so many times where we tried to, even my father, so we lived in Greece. We made it out of Iraq, went to Jordan, and then found our way to Athens, where we took refuge. Ended up living in some tents there on the beach, which was nice.
With other refugees?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It was during the war, and a lot of people were fleeing Iran, Iraq, and that war lasted for 8 years for no reason. Both
Hmm.
sides got hurt, for no reason. I mean, there was a reason, but So we stayed there for 3 years in Athens, got political asylum, and then came to United States in 1983. Great time to be in America. MTV was launching. Michael Jackson, A Thriller was coming out. It was a good time. Um, my father was so worried about coming to this country uh, because the world was seeing Iraq, and Iran, as I don't know, violent people. I don't know. He kind of predicted what was going to happen. That did happen. So people like always say, "Man, Knight. That doesn't sound like an Iraqi last name. Like that's not, you know." Uh, if you had met me maybe 5 years ago, my name wasn't even Mustafa. My birth name was Mustafa, but my parents, my dad changed all our names to westernized names when I think it was in 1987, we were becoming citizens. I was Stephen for almost 40 years of my life. I was Stephen Knight.
No way.
Yeah. I always kid. I was like, it really got, it helped me through 9/11. I didn't have to face any at the airports. TSA never messed with me. They're like, oh, Mr. Knight, right this way. Mohammed, that door, please. Um, so I kid about that, but I know I'm all over the place. So we go to Greece.
Wait
Uh,
1 second. Wait 1 second. You said you were Stephen for 40 years. At home, were you also Stephen, or at home were
no,
you Mustafa?
no, Mustafa, yeah.
So at
My
home, you were.
siblings called me Steve. Well, they didn't like saying Steven. They called me Steve, which I hated. Do I look like a Steve? No
No.
offense to Steves out there. Yeah.
Jeez.
But
So
yeah,
how
my mother called me Mustafa. Some close friends called me Mustafa, but a majority of people, 95% called me Steven.
did you understand what was
Yeah,
happening at
yeah.
JFK?
I think, yeah, I mean, it was even funny because my father, during era, because shortly after the Iran-Iraq war, the U.S. invaded Iraq in the Desert Storm in 1991. So there was this growing sentiment of they're terrorists, they're bad people. So my dad used to tell us to lie and say we're not Arab or Muslim, that we're Greek, because my dad spoke Greek and I knew a little Greek. And sometimes people think I was Greek. I was like, yeah, tikanis, like, um, so growing up as a child, I had this dual identity, it was very confusing. Not only did I have a different name, but I was with a girl, my high school sweetheart. We almost were together for almost 10 years. For the first 4 years of being together, she thought I was Greek.
Wow.
And I remember telling her one day, I was just like, I gotta be honest about something. I mean, can you imagine? We were kids. And she was beautiful. I mean, she was half Filipino, half white. So from Greece, we came to Ellis Island of the Arabs, which is Dearborn, Michigan.
Mhm.
Um, I was there last year for an Iraqi wedding.
Largest
Pretty-
population of Arabs, right, in the States?
I think so, yeah,
Yeah.
Dearborn. We were there for 9 months. We lived, I believe, on 8 Mile. We come from the desert. We go to the snow place, and my dad's like, I remember my dad's like, "We're getting out of here." And we had a station wagon. Kids don't know what that is anymore, but we had a station wagon with the wood panels. We jumped in there, 4 kids, and we were leaving Detroit, Michigan, Dearborn. It's a suburb of Detroit. And it's a suburb, right, of Detroit? Yeah.
Yes.
Uh, he goes to a gas station and he's like, "What's the nicest place to live in this country?" And the guy says San Diego. And my dad's like, "We're going to San Diego." Also, like, let me frame that. What's the nicest place where there's more Iraqis and, like, because there's a big Iraqi community out there as well, in El Cajon area, La Mesa. So then, yeah, we found ourselves in sunny San Diego. And that's why we went through elementary, started high school there. Um, as Stephen Knight.
I was about to say that as Stephen.
And the Iraqi, like, I didn't have much, I didn't have Arab friends a lot growing up. Not by choice. I think with a name like Stephen Knight, we never connected. Funny enough, I
Mm.
was playing an Arabic song yesterday in my car. I was picking up my daughter, and I could tell this was this Iraqi boy because I was just bouncing like this Iraqi music, and he's on his bike with his friends, and they're the bike lane, and he stops, and then he rolls back, and I was confused, and so he's in the bike, so I look over, and he goes. And then I was like, I didn't understand it at first. And then his friends started talking. And then when he pulled away, he made a U-turn, pulled away, looks at me, and he does one of those again to me. Then I got it.
Mm.
He was so proud to hear something that was familiar to him in this state, in this world, right? And I remember that as a child, like when I heard Arabic music and stuff like that. I never grew up in an Arab world, right? I'm pretty westernized. When I first touched down in the Arab world, and the first time I went was in 2007, went to Dubai for a film festival in Abu Dhabi. I, I, I had this like, why do I feel like I'm at home? Why do I feel like I know this people? I know this culture. I know everything. I don't even speak Arabic that well. Like, you know what I mean? And that was so beautiful. That was so beautiful that I got in touch with that. So yesterday, when I saw that kid, it dawned on me. I was like, it's happening to him what happened to me. Like I grew up in this country, so distant, so far from my culture, that when I heard something, when I felt, picked up something that reminded me of home, it just had that good feeling. First I thought I don't know. I honestly was confused. I didn't know what he was going after, but I was just like, oh, that's so beautiful. And I think that's one thing that we're losing more and more with social media is we're picking sides. Not I don't want to speak in broad strokes like that, but we're seeing, you know, I'm not very political, but when you see the Gaza thing, when you're talking about Gaza, it's sad because it looks like people are picking a side. It's like, no, we're all on one side. We're all human. Like we shouldn't make this about us. It's Palestinians. Like if this was happening to Israel and Palestinians was doing this to Israel, I would have the same reaction. I would have the same call outs. I would have by the way, once I started posting about Palestinian stuff on my Instagram account, I got shadow banned. Like I post stuff, I get 40 views. I used to have in the tens of thousands, in the 60, 100,000, 200,000. I'm getting like 100 views, right? That sucks. That's sad that when you're speaking of for humanity, forget the label you put on these people. These are human beings. They bleed like us. They laugh like us. They cry like us. They're humans. Sorry.
No, and that it's something so simple and common sense. And it's just, and I've said this in numerous episodes, like, why do we have to keep on repeating that we're all humans? We're all from the same tribe, the human tribe.
Yeah.
And the life of an Israeli should be the same as the life of a Palestinian, the life of a Chinese, the life of a Ukrainian, Russian. We are all human, but we've lost that humanity.
Well, I mean that those posters behind you right there of the world map we're all on the same planet, man.
Yeah.
Like, like we're all, we're all, there's no borders. There's no borders. That's all made up. That's all man-made. I think in NASA in 2000, I think it was during the pandemic or something. It had to do with, the current president when he was in office talking about borders and stuff like that. And then NASA like tweeted, we don't see from up here, we don't see any borders, right? Yeah, like the borders here. You're putting the borders right here, you know what I mean? And going back to about choice and well, I think we probably talked about it before we got on camera about choice, but we talked earlier about choice, you could choose to be human, or you, and forgive my language, or you could choose to be a piece of shit. Like you literally have that choice. You could choose to be human. If someone accidentally cuts you off, chalk it up as like, okay, like, they probably didn't see me, or maybe that person's going through something really bad, or they're having a bad day or something like that. You don't know what's going on. So it's not about you. It's not always about you. We have to think that there's other people out there. There's other people who are hurting. There are other people that are going through a lot. And sometimes just an act of kindness, a gesture, something goes a long way for that person. I know personally what I went through the last few years. When someone looked at me and says, "Hey, are you all right? How are you doing?" I can't tell you how much life they put in me when someone just saw me. I actually was on YouTube and I did YouTube live stream daily for almost a year. It was like 260 days straight. I started it. It was during my divorce time. I started it because I was like, I need a creative outlet. I'm gonna create content live, right? But I realized that's what I did. It didn't work that way. I started just sharing my experience, my story, and people would leave a lot of comments and reach out to me during the live and comment. They have no idea how much they played a big role in helping me stay grounded, stay human, feel recognized, feel like I'm seen, like the there are bombs being dropped on children right now as we're recording this. There's orphan. I saw a video of children at their kindergarten. You probably saw this video in Palestine, in Gaza, where the orphans are at their first graduation. I haven't cried so hard in my life when I watched that. Because I went to my kids' graduations, kindergarten graduations, and they didn't deserve this. Nobody deserves it. Nobody deserves it. The people on October 7th didn't deserve this. The people in the Holocaust didn't deserve it. The people in Iraq didn't deserve it for years, and Afghanistan and Vietnam, and like nobody deserves this. All
All I
right.
can say is, first of all, the images coming out of that part of the world are just beyond heartbreaking. Like I have no more words. It's just
Yeah.
I,
What
I
can you say at this point,
yeah,
right?
I can't. Second of all,
Shout out to Miss Rachel.
yeah. The other thing is, Mustafa, and I talked about this on my last podcast, there's evil. There are evil forces. And there's always been evil forces. One of the reasons I started this podcast is to humanize Arabs because, as you know, the mainstream media has done a wonderful job brainwashing the Westerners, thinking
Yeah.
that Arabs are all terrorists and jihadists and all of these things. And I believe they do that so that when they go over there
Yeah. It's
and they kill
dehumanizing.
millions of them, it it takes away from the evilness of it, right?
Yeah.
So, oh, they're less of a human. It's okay if we kill a million Iraqis.
It's funny you said that. Well, it's not funny, but that actually was said to me in 2003. I was sitting in, don't judge me. I was with friends in Santa Monica at Hooters. I don't usually visit Hooters. We're sitting at a table and they were like the news was on their TVs during halftime show, whatever, the football. And they were talking about the invasion of Iraq, the beginning of the invasion of Iraq. And I was amongst friends and some people I didn't know. They were just like, like watching football and stuff. And one of the guys said, out loud, I hope they nuke them and wipe them off the face of the earth. Like, my reaction was like, well, that's extreme, man. Like, I don't think he was on his second beer yet.
Imagine if he was.
So I go, my response, he was talking about Iraq. And so my response was like, all of them? He's like, yeah. I was like, every single one? He's like, hell yeah. I was like, even that kid like playing soccer on the street right now, or the newlywed that just got married, they're about, or the grandma playing with her grandkids for the first time. He's like, every single one of those terrorists. Excuse my language. I don't know if we have a
I'm
beep.
going to beep it out.
Okay. He says every terrorist, right? Every single one of those terrorists. And I go, well, I'm not a terrorist. And he's like, what? I go, you said every single one of them are terrorists. I'm not a terrorist. He goes, what the hell does that mean? I go, and my friend Jason at the time goes, dude, he's from Iraq. And he goes, no, he's not. He's Mexican. So I was like, I'm not, but I do love Mexican food. But it was, it's ignorance, right? It's ignorance. I didn't get upset. I just saw an ignorant person that was being brainwashed by the television set, you know? And that's what's happening since before I was born. Iraq, the Iran and Iraq war was in the hands of the U.S. They went and propped Saddam. There's not conspiracy theories. There's videos with pictures with everything. There's DOD reports. Donald Rumsfeld shaking hands with Saddam. They forced him into power. He was to attack the Ayatollah Khomeini after after they took out after the Iran revolution and they took down the Shah.
Mm-hmm.
So America didn't like the Ayatollahs, and they're like, well, we need a proxy war, and so they propped up Saddam, unleashed madness in that region, and then when he wasn't playing by the rules, they condemned him. And we didn't have social media when they were bombing the hell, bombing Iraq to Kingdom Come, but I knew. I have family there, lost family there. I knew what was happening over there. We knew what was happening, right now. But here's the sad part, Reddy. We thought, oh, with social media, with Gaza right now, that we could see what's happening and it'll stop. No. This is like, no. Like, you're showing like the most horrific images in the world, and people are like, it's like, oh, yeah.
Let's move on because, it's one thing I've learned with this podcast, Mustafa. When I first started, I didn't want to talk about politics and religion
Yeah.
because my purpose is to build bridges between the East and the West. But one thing that I quickly learned, like episode 2 or 3, was that it's very difficult to talk about that part of the world without talking politics because
Yeah,
it's
and especially
ingrained.
Arabs in general, right? Arabs, Afghanis, I mean, Iranians, like we're all anyone from the Middle East is, they've got their rear end handed to them, and so it's
Yes.
hard to avoid those conversations. Even as I'm telling you the story of my mother, her story is not unique. It's not special anymore. I used to think it was like, oh, we have a very unique. I'm like, oh my God, no, we're not. Like this is that region. That's why I love the movie Lawrence of Arabia. I highly suggest everyone watch that.
Mhm.
Tells you a lot about what really happened over there, and it really kind of shows that the plan of the West is still intact of what to do over there.
Yeah.
But all that being said, I'm still an optimistic person. I still believe in this beautiful quote by Gandhi: "Be the change you want to see in the world." Right? He says something like that. Be the change you want to see the world. I know I can't change the world, but I could change who I am. I could change who I am, and I did that, and I'm doing that, and I'm working on that. It's all about we're talking about the West. You mentioned the West and how media and all that does a great job of villainizing, Middle Easterners. That actually, I was part of that. In 2014, I'm an actor on hiatus. But I've been acting since I was a kid, theater and all that stuff. And I was cast to be I had a guest starring role on NCIS Los Angeles. And at first I was just like excited because I saw the name, the character's name is South American, Mateo something, Latin name. I was like, okay, I don't mind playing a Latin bad guy. I could do this, you know. And they're like, "Do you speak Arabic?" I go, yeah. I mean, you always say yes anytime I cast. And do you speak Mandarin? I'm like, absolutely, like you know. So I was like, yeah, I do. And they're like, okay, yeah, because there's lines in Arabic. And I'm like, but he's from like Argentina or something. I'm like, that's weird, right? I was so excited about getting the part. It was a big role, you know. LL Cool J. I remember being on the set. So I remember like we did a table read at Paramount Studios. Yeah, it was Paramount. Um, we're doing a table read. I'm like, why is he speaking Arabic? Why if I he speaks English, but shouldn't he speak Spanish? Like, like why is he, you know? So like one of his goons, he speaks Arabic too. And I think the guy who played my goon, I don't think he was Arabic either. I don't think he's Middle Eastern. But nonetheless, we're in the table read. I'm like, why am I like? Why do I have to speak Arabic? You know, it's kind of weird. I don't know. I just was like, money's good, guest starring role. You know, looks good on the resume. Got to meet LL Cool J. It was fun. So I'm like standing with LL Cool J, and there's a scene where he confronts me, and he points the gun at me, and then I say something. I yell in Arabic to run, and they chase me down, and they shoot me dead. And then thank God I don't say Allahu Akbar, but because I would have never said that. I detonate a bomb, and it goes off. I'm not kidding you. I'm being chased by LL Cool J and Chris O'Donnell, the guy who played his partner, Robin from Batman Robin. But nonetheless, they're chasing me, and I remember. So at the time, my son, my ex-wife, was pregnant with my son, and I'm like running, and I remember just having this moment, going, "I'm part of the problem now. I'm literally part of the problem." Here's the funny part about this: before I did that show, I never went out for any Arab roles or any like anything that had to do with Middle Easterns. No one bought that I was a Middle Eastern. I didn't fit the stereotype of a Middle Eastern guy. Truth be told, I auditioned in 2006, 2007 for a movie called Body of Lies with Leonardo DiCaprio, where he goes to Jordan. And I don't know if you've seen the movie, but they needed Leonardo DiCaprio sidekick. That was the quote on the breakdown, to be someone in their mid-20s, which was me, who's westernized, spoke perfect American English, which is me, spoke Iraqi English language, and is from Iraq. My manager called me up. She's like, "They wrote it for you. This is you." I swear to you. I was like, there is no, oh my God, this is it. My time has come. I'm going to star opposite Leonardo DiCaprio. This is it. I felt that mold perfectly, right? I was supposed to be his driver, or not me, but the characters is, if you've seen the movie, he's like his guide through Jordan or stuff like that, or Iraq. I don't know where they pretend they were, but they shot it in Morocco. So we send the audition. It was A.V. Kaufman, big casting director in New York. My manager's convinced this is you. You know, Ridley Scott's directing it. I'm like, I've arrived, baby. Here we go. You know, Stephen Knight. We'll get to that later. So we, crickets. My manager calls and is like, "Yo, just following up." She's like, "A great audition, amazing audition, but he doesn't look Arab. We don't believe that he's from Iraq." She's like, "He was born there. He is Iraqi." She's like, "He does." Yeah, it's just like, and this is what was said to me. I don't know the real conversation that happened, but what my manager told me was that she was told I didn't look Arab. And it's like, what are we supposed to look like?
Yeah.
I am Arab. This is me. Like, this is me, and I didn't get the part. And they casted an Australian guy who wasn't Arab. So, so anyways, so I didn't, I never, then I never pitched myself as an Arab actor. The one time then I had new agents, new managers. The one time I said, oh, by the way, I just wanted to let you know I speak Arabic. They didn't know that because my name wasn't Mustafa back then. We'll get to that in a second. But my name was Stephen Knight. My dad changed our names and stuff like that. It wasn't a stage name. It wasn't an actor name. It was literally my citizen name, my ID name, Stephen Knight. And when my agents managers found out, they're like, you speak Arabic? So I can show you some headshots. They're like, we need to update your headshots, put some military garb around you. We need to make you look villain. You know, you're going to book roles. And I bit a little bit because I wanted to work. I was a struggling actor that could act. um, and I did it. And then once I booked, the first role I got was to play a terrorist. That's, you know, and I was like, I remember after that shoot, I said, I can't do these roles anymore. Do not send me out to any of these roles anymore. They're like, that's where the money is. I was like, I can't do them. And my auditions tanked. I never went out for another audition. They stopped submitting me.
Well, I think that's how they get you, right? Like, I know I lived in LA. I understand the business in LA. People are desperate for work. Actors are desperate for
Yeah.
work.
I
And
would have done some things, I'm telling you
yeah,
right now.
I mean, understandable. You have bills to pay. You want to, obviously grow in your field. So they know that. And I think you are not the only one that has probably experienced that, where they've had to play roles that they don't want to as a terrorist because they want the job. They need to pay their bills. But yeah, I totally respect you for not feeding into their agenda.
Yeah, and if you look like shortly after that, I didn't book. I got on True Detective, but not. I played a journalist. Power Ranger. I was a Red
Okay.
Ranger for a minute. Um, in a incredible YouTube fan film. And then after that, I never booked. Since 2015, I'd never acted since. And I told myself, if I don't do work that I'm proud of, I'm just not going to do it, you know? And
It's not worth
I,
the integrity.
I have kids
Yeah.
and and going back to my name, Stephen Knight, my son was 6 years old. I was driving him to kindergarten and I'll never forget this day. You talk about a 6-year-old boy that could change a grown man and educate him in real time, instantly. This moment, I'm driving him to kindergarten. And he's now coming out to the real world, right? And he's starting to hear people talk to me outside of his mother, his grandmother, right? And my close friends. And they're calling me Steven. And he's never heard that before.
Mm.
So I'm driving to kindergarten. He goes, Dad, can I ask you a question? He's in his car seat behind me. I'm looking at the rear view mirror. I go, yeah, baby, what's up? I call both my babies babies. I go, yeah, baby. I still call him. And my daughter, she's like, I'm not a baby anymore. I'm like, you'll always be my baby. I was like, yeah, baby, what's up? And he was like, why do you have a fake name? I swear to you, I've never been stumped as hard as I was there. I was like, I didn't have an answer. I just looked at him and he goes, why are people calling you Steven? Why do you have a fake name? I look in the rearview mirror and I go, honestly, I don't know. What I meant by is I didn't know I still had that name
Mm.
because that wasn't my name. And I didn't know I had it. So it kind of sat with me. I dropped him off. I started thinking about it. And I say, how can I look at my kids? How can I be hopefully an inspiration for them? And I've been living a lie. How can I tell them and say, be proud of who you are and where you came from? They're a quarter Palestinian. They're Iraqi, Lebanese, Palestinian. How can I look at them and go, be proud of who you are? Don't ever be ashamed of who you are, because I went through that. My dad wasn't, and I'm not saying he was wrong for that. The times were different. And even now it's scary being Mustafa. But I kept thinking about, how am I going to raise these kids? And then I have a name, Stephen Knight. Like if I say, be proud of who you are, and they're like, is that right, Stephen Knight? Like, it's like, is that, be true to who you are, and where you come from. So I legally changed it. And I make this joke every time. They're like, so why'd you leave the night part? And I go, I need a fighting chance at the TSA people. Like, I need a fighting chance. Mustafa Knight sounds cool, hip parents, kind of like Keanu Reeves. He was born in Beirut. They named him Keanu, it's like, yeah, it's kind of cool story. If I was like Mustafa Kadam, Zeki Al Zahid, they're like, Mr. Knight, there's your orange jumpsuit, or Mr. Zahid, right this way. I mean, Guantanamo Bay has been discussed of recent that they want to reopen it up, So I changed it because of a 6-year-old, because he reminded me that I need to be proud. I need to be proud of who I am. I didn't choose this life. I didn't choose to be born in Iraq. I didn't choose the wars. I didn't choose any of that. I didn't choose the hate speech. I didn't choose any of that. I was just born here. You know what I mean? And if my parents named me Mustafa, then that's my name. If I am Muslim, alhamdulillah, that's who I am. You know what I mean? And I think it's my obligation now to my children, and inshallah to all who are out there who struggle with identity crisis. I had an identity crisis throughout my life. Like, especially being an actor. I'm like, who am I?
That's confusing. You've got a lot going on in terms of identity.
Yeah. So, and a magician, a rock band. Like, I've had some things, But I tell you one thing, when I set foot in the Middle East, I realized, man, that is home. When I used to speak against the governments, I never spoke against this country. I love this country. I was raised here. I don't like the government, and I'll be always honest about that. Since I was born, I didn't like the government, right? Even Obama, and I voted for him, and I don't like him. He killed more Iraqis than Bush did, But here's what I say when people tell me, why don't you go back to where you came from? Fix it. You broke it. Go fix it. And my parents would have never been here. My parents would have never came here if you didn't put your hand there, if you didn't destroy that world. We're here because you broke it. That's why I'm here. And I'm going to stay here. Damn it. Like, so I'm going to stay in here. I'm American as American Pie. I listened to CCR. I'm Led Zeppelin. I had a couple of Harleys, tattoos. I'm as American as I could be. And I'm a proud Iraqi on top of
Good
that.
for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's true. That's a really good point. If they hadn't meddled in that part of the world, it's a beautiful part of the world.
I don't know if you've ever met military people who served in Iraq. They love Iraq. They're like, I miss it. I miss the people. I miss everything. If you watch YouTube videos about Westerners in Iraq, they're like, I love this place. How the hospitality. I mean, even the whole Middle East is very hospitable, right? We're known to be hospitable people, not hostile people. Hospitable people. Like, we're known for that, right? But I always joked about this. They're like, oh, I heard Iraq is very scary. And I'm like, it's just a camera pointing in an angle in a specific part of a country or specific part of a town. I go, if I put on a camera in downtown LA, East LA, and I show the rest of the world, this is what America or South, Chicago or wherever there's bad crime. If I put a camera there and I said, this is what America is, everyone in the world's like, oh, this is so scary. They're all killing themselves out there. They're barbarians and stuff like that. It's like, no, man, like, there's a reason why Dubai and Abu Dhabi, Qatar, and all that are coming up, and Saudi, is because we're educated, we're good people with strong family values, strong deen, strong faith in God. We're good people. There's a bad apple. Yes, there's bad apples in Iraq, bad apples in Gaza, bad apples in East LA, bad apples in DC. Everywhere. In the White House, there's bad apples everywhere, right?
Yeah.
But don't burn the tree down, people. Like, it's just a bad apple in that tree, right? Like, you can't burn it down. And for me, I believe, I'm working on a book series about being human. Because my story, I forgot what it was to be human for the longest time. I always saw myself as a product of a topic, a CNN headline. Iraqis this, Middle Easterns this, Muslims this. We're always just bunched up. I mean, there's extremism in anything.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've hit the 1 hour mark, and this has been great because I think, your story is quite fascinating. It's you almost had me in tears with a couple of your stories. But I want to talk about your show Immigrants, because I think you've taken your story, your experiences, and you've created a show out of it. What made you want to do this and tell the story?
So I've been writing for a long time. I started writing back in my days. I started writing in the 90s. Theater actor, wrote, one act plays and stuff like that, sketches, big in comedy, went through Second City, did 1 year at Groundlings. Since the Desert Storm, I was 13 years old, turning 14. This sentiment was growing about Iraqis and Arabs. And I remember just saying, if you guys just got to know us, if you really just got to know me, if you really got to know my brothers, my community, we're not that. We're not. And I used to say, I wish we had a show like the Cosbys. It always sat with me and I always wanted to tell that kind of story. In early 2000s, after the 9/11, I left Hollywood. I remember when 9/11 happened. I'll never forget it. It was Tuesday morning. I'm driving into Paramount Studios. It's like almost 6 a.m. before the second plane hits. And I get into the soundstage. I see everyone gather around the TV. They're showing the fire from the first plane. And I'm like, oh my God. They're like, yeah, a plane accidentally crashed in there and stuff like that. The reason why I bring this up is because it has something to do with immigrants. And it's part of the show. We actually talk about it in the show. Kind of. I allude to it, what the news does to people. So we're all formed around. Looked like a plane accident. Oh my God, this plane flew too low. How could they miss this build? Like, how can they not see this building? And then live TV, we see the second one go in. I saw the second one go in live on television. Our jaws just complete silence, gasp everywhere, confusion, everything. Everyone's like, oh my God, right? So I remember just stunned. I'm like, what is happening, right? I didn't understand it. They sent us home. LA was on a curfew immediately, I believe. They were bringing out like troops, and because they thought LA was going to be a target. It was a mess. I lived in an apartment with like 6 other people, actors and stuff. We're just gathering around television watching, and we were stuck like everyone else was stuck to the TV. Within 24 hours, they started blaming Arabs. Within 24 hours, the discussion was like, this is a terrorist attack. They started discussing Middle Easterns. From someone who left war, from someone who experienced Desert Storm of the invasion of Iraq, my heart sank. I'm like, oh my God, they're going to come after us. Arabs live in that fear all the time. When there was back in the height of all these suicide bombings and all these attacks, you just grasp and like, please don't let it be Arab. Don't let it be a Muslim. Please, please. Like, you know what I mean? That's sad, right? Like, that's sad because we know we're going to be targeted.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, within 24 hours, Donald Rumsfeld, he was solely responsible. He literally says, within 24 hours of the attacks, it's in the DOD. I'm not making this up. You guys go look it up. This is a great opportunity to enter Iraq. And that was the beginning of the end, right? Of the Saddam regime, of Iraq, and that whole region. That whole region from 2001 till this day has been decimated, you know. And so I started writing the show around that time called IHOF instead of IHOP, International House of Pancakes. It was International House of Falafels. And it was about a family, kind of like the Cosby Show, but they're running a falafel house. It's a Middle Eastern family, Iraqi family running a falafel house.
Okay.
And the owners were Israeli Jewish people that own the land, and they're friends, but they always have this, it's like I'm going to entertain you through their politics, right? They're friends. You could see they get along. They have their differences, but they're both brainwashed. And it's usually the parents. The younger people in the show were like, you guys are idiots. Like, you're, like you're not seeing, doesn't matter. It's like, So anyway, so I started writing this. It was a sitcom. And this is during the height of the invasion of Iraq. This is the height of people chanting, bomb them, to kingdom come, like, kill them all. It wasn't cool to be Arab, you know. That's when the shows like 24, all these all these different TV shows, very heavy in portraying. I had so many friends who done these parts in movies and Iron Man and stuff, like always showing Arabs or Afghanis or, you know, any Middle Easterner, let's say, as the villain. You know, in the 80s was Russians, 90s and 2000s it became the Arabs. Now we're back on Russians. It's just a cycle. we're coming up. We're due.
The story repeats itself.
And so I started writing that show, and I also wrote a feature film called Serving My Country, and it's about a guy who goes to Iraq, and it really has to focus on right after 9/11, the invasion, and then Abu Ghraib, which was the prison that they were torturing innocent men from Iraq. And so it was that story. It kind of took. I had a meeting with Warner Brothers Independent sister. I never got it off the ground, but it was a story about an American Iraqi man going to get his mom out of the war, and then he gets trapped and gets sent to Abu Ghraib, and we see, you know, the true events happen through his eyes. Not really comedy. Like, so I remember going, do I really want to tell these stories? I don't think they do well. I don't think what stories like that I was like, I got to stick to comedy. I want to do comedy because I think comedy really puts that wall down for people and go, you know what? I'm going to watch this. I'm going to laugh, you know? And I think it will introduce new audiences to it, right? So I ended up writing another show. I scrapped IHOF because I thought it was too politically charged for Hollywood, especially in that time. So I started developing a show called Mo's Slim Chance in 2012, 2011. So if you say it together, Muslim's Chance, Mo's Slim Chance. And it's about a Muslim guy who's just trying to get by in America. Like he's just, before Rami, it was way before, it was just, you know, and I have proof. It won some awards and screenwriting stuff. So I started shopping around and I got great feedback. We actually shot, I ended up not casting myself. I'm a actor. I'm also a director and a writer, but I don't cast myself if I don't feel right for the part. I actually had Charles Marina do the proof of concept. I'll send it to you. And I turned into like a mockumentary, like an Office. And it was about Mo, you know, trying to become a citizen and his journey through that. So I kind of rewrote the script to fit Charles a little bit better. More of a fish out of water story. And I was getting passed around and just not anything was coming back. You know, this is early 2000s, 2020. I started developing it. It was after Rami won the Golden Globe. My ex-wife at the time was like, that could have, you know, like she got upset because she knew about the project because you should have stuck with it. That could have been you up there. And I go, no, he actually opened the door for us. That's amazing. Like, I'm so proud of what Rami did.
What did he win for?
For Rami, he won a Golden Globe for Rami, best actor. So he won, and I got inspired to dust it off. And then I was like, let's just shoot no one's getting it, but let them see it, right? So we shot a proof of concept. Hilarious. It was really good. It was funny. So proud of the work we did. Shoestring budget, 1 day shoot, 2 day shoot. It was just a scene that we shot. I realized, you know what? And then I was going to shoot the whole pilot, and I had some actors come on board. They loved the script. They're like, yeah, we're doing it. But then I realized the pushback, nobody really wanted to follow a Middle Eastern guy. I felt at that time. I was like, and then I started thinking about it. I was like, well, it's not really about my story is interesting. It's the immigrant story, because I've talked to people I have friends who are Korean. I've talked to people from Korea. I've talked to people from Mexico. I have Mexican family members. I've talked to people from different parts of the world that share the similar story of being an immigrant. And going back to like saying my mom's story is not unique, my story wasn't unique. Most Slim Chance, it's a story that we all share, the immigrant story, what it's like to feel like the outsider. So I remember calling the cast and just pivoting, and I go, it was October of 2022. I go, hey, I know it's going to be shocking, but I'm going to rewrite this whole concept, this whole idea. I'm writing a new show. Bear with me, stick with me. I think it's going to be better because I didn't want to talk about the Arab experience. I wanted to talk about the immigrant experience because we could all relate to that. And I've proven that when the audience have seen it from different parts of the world have reached out like, oh my God, like, you know my story. It didn't matter that Charles was playing an Arab character. It was just part of, and Immigrants is not an American experience. It's not exclusive to America. There's immigrants in Europe. There's immigrants in Australia. There's immigrants in Asia. It's a global issue, right?
Mhm.
The outsiders kind of thing. So I rewrote it, developed it, got this first draft to the at cast. They loved it. I thought it was great. But I didn't. I don't drink my own Kool-Aid, and I sent it out to some screenwriting firms that do um, notes, feedback. And this is the first script that I've ever sent out on the first draft that got a like passing grade. Like, yeah, this is ready for Hollywood. This is ready for agents and stuff like that. And I'm like, whoa. And I show you the proof of that. And I was like, okay. I did some minor tweaks and I was like, we're doing this. And I felt that I didn't shop the script. It actually got selected on the blacklist, which was a great honor. I put it up on the blacklist. It was awarded the 2024 the Muslim list on the blacklist. So it was selected to that.
Cool. Mabruk.
Thank you. But I didn't shop it because I was like, I'm not going to wait for somebody to tell my story. I got to tell it. I have to tell it. I have to tell this story. I thought it was, and it's a dark comedy. I thought it was important enough. I was like, I loved Friends growing up. I loved Seinfeld. Like not anymore. Back then I loved Seinfeld. I loved Let Me Down. I liked ensemble casts. So instead
Mm.
of focusing on one character, I wanted the friends on crack, I called them. That was my pitch. It was these friends with people of color, right? It was just in modern day world, in a real world, you know? And I thought it was important because they resembled my friends. I didn't have, I have white friends, I have black friends, I have Mexican friends, I have Korean friends. I have half brother and sister Chinese, siblings. Like I'm mixed. I've always been mixed. So I was like, yeah, that's my world. Those are my people. And so I wanted to create a show that didn't focus on one person, but focused on the immigrant experience from different levels. The one that's fresh off the boat and the one that's lived here practically their whole life. Kind of like me. Because when I say I'm immigrant, people don't really, like, really? You don't
Yeah.
come off as an immigrant. I was like,
Your
what?
English is perfect.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
what the hell is that supposed to mean?
I get the same thing.
Yeah. So, and that we had some trials and tribulations trying to make in it. That was the beginning of the divorce. A lot of things happened, but I kept saying to myself, I got to do this. I have to. It was actually something I said out loud. If not now, then when? This is something I've dreamt about since the Desert Storm world, of showing people who we really are,
Mm.
right? We've had a lot of shows since the Cosby shows. We've had George Lopez, we had Kim's Convenience. We've had other shows that dealt with different backgrounds, different cultures, but they were always specific to one culture in a sense, right? It was the Mexican or the Korean or the black. I was like, I want a show to show the real world that, at least the world I lived in we're just mixed. It's not really because if we're fortunate enough to go into a series, it wouldn't focus on just Abe's story, Charles. It's going to get into Randa's story and it's going to get into Maya's story, who's African American. It's going to
Mhm.
get into Samira's story, who's East Indian. You know what I mean? Like, and we're going to cast if we get picked up or anything, I would have a Korean character. Tell your stories. Because it's the same story. We all have the same story. But we tend to put this lens on and have this perspective that because you look slightly different than me or you speak a different language, you are not me. You're not one of me. That's not right. And that's why, like, when you said you put them in a room, like, if you put people And I've seen videos on YouTube. I've seen this all over. It's like if you put people who have this stark, drastic difference of opinion, you could put a KKK guy, an African American in the same room, you're going to find common ground and you're going to start seeing the human in one another. And that's what happened with my father when I got to know him, is he started telling me stories of who he was, where he came from. And I was so grateful for it. I forgave him. And then most importantly, I started forgiving myself
Mm.
because I got to meet the man I hated most of my life. And I realized I didn't hate him. I just didn't know him. I had all this preconceived things about him of who he is and what he is and all that stuff. But when I actually talked to him, I got to find out who that man was. He was a human being. And so Immigrants it's a dark comedy. It touches on some dark subjects. It's in your face. It's one of the scenes that I definitely had a hard time editing was the raid scene, the ice scene, which I filmed a couple years ago, and they come to fruition. It started to happen in modern day America. Immigrants literally is about get to know us. Just get to know us. Like, and I'm gonna make you laugh. So for me, Immigrants is bigger than the laughs. For me, was like, okay, I want to say something, but I'm not going to preach it to you. I'm just going to show you and I'm going to tickle you and I'm going to make you laugh. And then when you walk away, you're going to feel something. You're going to
Mm.
reflect. You're going to remember that neighbor. You're going to remember how you treated someone one day or something. You're going to realize that, hey, they're just like me. I don't know if Hollywood was ready for it yet, So I actually released it on YouTube July 1st and it went viral, to my surprise. The YouTube channel that it went on only had 600 subscribers. It hit 30,000 views in the first week on a small channel, and then YouTube took it down because there was a song in there that I thought it was cleared, because when I first upload it, I don't make it go live. So when you upload YouTube, it does a copyright
Yeah.
check. So it
Yeah.
did all the checks. It said it gave me the green light. So it was sitting there for 2 days. It didn't flag this one song. And so then I posted it. And then the comments are incredible. Over 500 amazing comments. People want the show. People are connecting to the show. They want the show. And then YouTube took it down.
Oh my gosh.
But then I put it back up. I had to replace the song with one of their stock songs, but I let it go, and that, to me, that's where I am in life. Is we spoke earlier off camera about life just happens. And the more we accept that and the more we understand, at least for me, that I'm not in control of anything. I'm not in control of this interview with you. I'm not in control of the weather. I'm not in control of anything. I'm in control of my actions and my mindset. I'm not in control of my kids. I'm not in
Yep.
control of my dog. I'm in control of how I show up for them. I'm in control of how I present myself in this interview, how I present myself online. That's the only thing I have in control of. And once I really grasped that, it was painful not to see Immigrants getting signed. I had major players screaming, cotton candy, rainbows, this is amazing. This is like, I'm like, oh, we're going to this, and ghosted. But
Mm.
Hollywood's going through a lot of changes. So I had to realize it wasn't about the show. It was about Hollywood's falling apart right now. So
Yeah.
instead of holding on to it, I was like, I'll just put it on YouTube. And if it's meant to happen, then it's supposed to happen. But at least I feel like for me, I did my part. I did the thing in that kid, the 13-year-old who said, I just want to show people who we are. I feel like I accomplished that, and I won't go to my grave saying, what if I tried? What if I gave it a shot? You know? So that, to me,
Absolutely.
it's a great success. I highly encourage all your audience to watch Immigrants. It's on YouTube. Just type in Immigrants Comedy Series, and the full episode is there. It's 30 minutes. I guarantee you're going to laugh all the way through.
Yeah, and I'll absolutely add the link to it as well in the description.
Amazing.
Mustafa, this has been a
Jelly.
lovely conversation.
Thank
But
you.
as you know, this podcast is about Arabs and the Arab world. And we didn't even touch upon, I mean, you talked about how you went there for the first time in 2007 and that you just felt like at home. But I do want to end with asking you, what is a lasting message that you would like to leave the West about Arabs or Iraqis or the Arab world?
Have an open mind. That, put your whatever it is to the side and just have an open mind and see someone as a human. Forget the labels, forget the borders, see a human, we share the same, I mean, we all come from the same place, I don't know. I feel like that's such a, and forgive me for saying this, I feel like I'm tired of telling people who I am. I'm tired of even explaining who we are, like if, but I know that's the only way to change the narrative is having conversations like this and speaking is the only way. Remaining silent is being complicit. What you don't change, you are choosing. If I don't change my ways of looking at the world and others, even the people who hate me the most, if I can't change the way I look at them, I'm choosing to accept them the way they are. But I could change the way I look at them. I could change that they didn't have the information growing up. I could change my feelings of like they weren't given the information they need to make this judgment. So maybe if we have a conversation, maybe they hear me out. Maybe I sit on this podcast. Maybe I make a TV show. Maybe I act in something. Maybe I could spark that conversation within their own circles, And I think a time like this, conversations, speaking out loud for Gaza, for the children of Gaza, forget they're Middle Easterners, forget where they are in this world. They are on this world. People of Sudan, people of Yemen. I mean, it's tragic if you list off the countries of people who are just suffering and being dehumanized, you know? Just have an open mind, just have an open mind and approach it as like, okay, I'll hear you out. That's all.
Yeah, I'm trying to undo the decades of brainwashing that's been done. And you said you're tired of having to say who you are. But unfortunately, I think we have to keep just putting that message out and connecting and storytelling from the region to show that we really are humans. And yeah, it seems redundant for us, but it's just imagine all the damage that's been done that we now have to undo. And it's not going to happen overnight. That's the truth.
Not at all. Bringing this full circle to the Marcus Aurelius quote, what stands in the way becomes the way. This is our way. This is the way,
Yeah.
So instead of trying to walk around it, try to move around it, no, walk right through it. Walk right through it. And what stands in the way becomes the way.
Yeah. That was lovely.
Thank you.
Mustafa,
Hopefully you'll join me on my podcast whenever I have the courage to light it up. But I am entertaining this whole magician idea thing.
I
I
love
think this
it.
would be, I don't know.
I think it's very aesthetically cool, and I'd love to be a guest. I haven't been a guest on a podcast yet, so that makes me a
I would
little
love.
nervous.
Okay, you're definitely gonna be a guest on my podcast,
Amazing. Well,
and we
thank you
could
in
continue.
advance.
And I'd love to be back on yours if you ever want to continue the conversation.
Absolutely. Where can our audience find you? I will leave the link to Immigrant.
Guantanamo Bay. Oh, yeah.
Stop
I'm
it.
gonna take residency at Guantanamo after this. Um, Instagram is at official Mustafa Knight. On YouTube, it's at Mustafa Knight. TikTok is at official Mustafa Knight. Threads is at Mustafa official Knight. Why is it official?
I don't know, but you've kept it consistent, so that's good.
I'm trying. Well, you know why? Because my personal account was Mustafa Knight, so they wouldn't let me name it. Because I had a personal Instagram before I
Oh,
started the
okay.
professional one. So at Mustafa Knight. But if you Google my name, all of them
Okay.
linked up.
Yeah, and I'll leave it in the link in the description as well.
Let me tell you something, Julie.
Yes.
People don't know this.
Tell
You
me.
reached out to me almost a year ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm so proud of what you've done with this podcast. It's such an inspiring story. I think it's such an important story to share with everyone that you're doing this on your own. And it's incredible. I'm fascinated by that. And I know you're Brazilian and Middle Eastern, right? You're mixed with both. You got that work ethic, and it's so incredible. unfortunately, I didn't get to join you last year, but I was in the construction zone. I was a WIP. I was a work in progress, but I'm so glad to be here, and I'm so happy for you, and I wish you all the best with this. It's incredible what you're doing, and I think it's very important what you're doing, and I feel honored that you invited me as a guest.
Thank you. That means more than, I feel it inside. So thank you so much. And timing is everything, and last
Yeah.
year we spoke and it wasn't the right time. And I truly believe I leave everything in God's hands and I believe in
Alhamdulillah.
the timing of things. And now was the right time. You're going to start your own podcast. Last year you weren't. So trust, just trust.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah.
yeah,
Control what you can control, right? Can't control everything
exactly.
outside. Yeah.
Exactly.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. Thank you to all of you who follow, like, subscribe, comment, share, do all of it. You guys, thank you for the support. Really, it means so much to me. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, please. Thank you so
Yes.
much. And we will see you next time. Bye.